You might think people are against you. You see the side eyes when you pass in the hallway, the snarky comments online, the family member who rolls their eyes every time you mention your goals. You feel the chill when you walk into the gym before dawn or the office after hours. They're not cheering. But hear me, most of them aren't truly against you. They're convicted by you. Your discipline is a mirror, and it reflects what they're refusing to face. Every 5 a.m. alarm you answer exposes the snooze button they worship. Every sugar you skip, every impulse you deny, every page you study, every prayer you whisper in secret, those choices shine a spotlight on their excuses. You do not need to apologize for diligence. You need to embrace that your consistency carries prophetic force. Light irritates eyes that have grown accustomed to the dark. A clean diet unsettles friends who bond over junk food. A saved bank account convicts those who spend recklessly. Your boundaries confront their lack of self-control. You were not called to dim, you were called to demonstrate. Stop shrinking to fit fragile comfort zones. Your life is not an accusation, though it feels like one. It is an invitation. You are a living billboard that discipline still works, that hustle without holiness is hollow, and that there is another way. Some will attack, others will awaken. The same sunrise that melts wax hardens clay. Let it happen. Your responsibility is to keep rising. Every lap you run is a silent sermon. Every word you withhold when gossip circles is a rebuke to cheap speech. Every dollar saved is a parable of stewardship. Their discomfort is proof that your example is effective. Never trade conviction for acceptance. Shine on, disciplined soul. Heaven records, hell trembles, and the undecided take notice. Many will imitate tomorrow what they ridicule today. Discipline doesn't just build you, it reveals others. When you rise early while they sleep in, it exposes a gap they'd rather ignore. When you say no to distractions they indulge in, it uncovers the comfort they've become addicted to. They're not mad at you, they're mad at the version of themselves they see when you walk by. Your discipline feels like judgment even when you say nothing, because deep down they know they could do better. But instead of rising to your level, many choose the easier route: criticism, sarcasm, backhanded compliments. Why? Because it's less painful to attack your discipline than to face their own lack of it. When you begin to elevate, you disrupt the ecosystem of mediocrity they've been surviving in. You were once one of them, content, comfortable, casual. But now your consistency is shifting the dynamic. You're not partying like you used to. You're not wasting time like you used to. You're not seeking approval like you used to. And that makes them uncomfortable. Your change is forcing them to consider theirs, and most people would rather mock growth than face the pain of transformation. You must understand, your discipline is spiritual. It's not just about fitness, focus, or finances. It's about authority. When you govern yourself, you become a threat to every system, every spirit, and every structure that thrives on chaos. Your refusal to bend makes you unmanageable. Your routine makes you rare. That's why the enemy doesn't need to tempt you with sin if he can bait you with distraction. But you're not just living for applause, you're living on assignment. So let them gossip. Let them whisper. Let them wonder why you've changed. They won't say it out loud, but your consistency is convicting them. Keep going. Don't water yourself down to be more palatable. Don't apologize for being focused. You are not arrogant, you are aware. And awareness births accountability. The moment you chose discipline, you started preaching without words. That's why they react. But you weren't called to please them. You were called to lead them, whether they realize it now or not. Growth is not just an internal transformation, it's a mirror. And when you start leveling up, that mirror begins to reflect what others have avoided. Your discipline becomes a silent reminder of what they've delayed. Your focus becomes a contrast to their indecision. And without saying a single word, you begin to challenge the very identity they've built on comfort, excuses, and distraction. It's not that you've rejected them, it's that you've rejected who you used to be. But to them, that feels like betrayal, because as long as you stayed the same, they could feel good about staying the same too. Your consistency breaks that unspoken contract. It says, there's another level, and I'm not waiting for permission to reach it. This is the part no one talks about. Sometimes your growth will feel like abandonment to those who haven't started theirs. They'll say you've changed. Yes, you have. They'll say you act different. Yes, because your vision demands it. They'll say you think you're better. No, you've just decided to be better. Better than your past, better than your excuses, better than who you were yesterday. Don't let their discomfort become your distraction. Your journey is sacred. It's not about superiority, it's about responsibility. You've been entrusted with something they haven't recognized yet, a purpose too big to carry casually. And when people see you begin to protect your time, your energy, your mind, they may feel offended. But what they're really witnessing is someone refusing to die with potential still inside. Discipline always comes at a cost. Sometimes you lose connection before you gain elevation. But here's the truth, they're not really against you. They're wrestling with the version of themselves that your discipline exposes. And that battle isn't yours to fight. Stay the course, keep building, keep rising. The same ones who question you today will one day quote you tomorrow. Just don't stop. There comes a moment on the path to purpose when you realize that your silence speaks louder than your words. You're no longer trying to prove yourself, no longer explaining why you're not showing up to every event, replying to every message, or entertaining every distraction. Your focus begins to feel like rebellion to those who live off attention. They don't understand that your isolation is not punishment, it's preparation. Discipline will always look like disobedience to people who worship comfort. They don't see the quiet war you're fighting, the battle to remain committed when it would be easier to compromise. So they say you're distant, too intense, too serious. But what they call obsession, heaven calls obedience. You're no longer running with the crowd because your destiny is built in the quiet hours, in the sacrifice, in the decision to say no 1,000 times so you can say yes to what really matters. Every time you turn down temptation, every time you rise early to train, to pray, to study, to build, you are breaking invisible chains. And yes, it offends people who live chained to approval, because your life is no longer built on applause, it's built on alignment. You're not trying to be better than anyone else. You're just trying to become who you were born to be. But understand this, your focus will intimidate those still flirting with their calling. Your consistency will convict those still negotiating with excuses, and your progress will irritate the stagnant. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand. You weren't born to be liked. You were born to be light. And light doesn't ask darkness for permission to shine. Keep building. Keep burning. Heaven takes note of the ones who obey in silence and rise in power. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's not celebrated on social media. It won't make the headlines or trend online. But it is the foundation of greatness. And when you choose consistency, you choose a road that few are willing to walk. Why? Because it requires sacrifice. It demands discipline when no one is watching. It requires you to build in silence while others are partying in the noise. People will question you. They'll say, "You've changed." And they're right, you have. You've changed your focus. You've changed your priorities. You're not entertaining what drains you. You're not accepting invitations to go back to who you used to be. And that threatens those who never grew. They're not mad at you. They're uncomfortable with what you represent. Your discipline shines a mirror on their indecision. Your progress reveals their procrastination. Your rising exposes their refusal to move. And so they'll call you arrogant. They'll say you're too focused, too distant, too self-absorbed. But don't take it personally. They're not against you. They're convicted by your consistency. In a world of shortcuts, your slow obedience is radical. In a culture that glorifies speed and fame, your quiet discipline is offensive. Keep going. Keep building brick by brick. Because while others chase moments, you're building a legacy. There's a strange thing that happens when you become deeply committed to your calling. At first, they laugh. They dismiss your intensity. They say you're too obsessed, too spiritual, too deep, too focused. But later, they'll ask how you did it. They'll say you were lucky. They'll call it favor. They won't talk about the lonely nights, the early mornings, the prayers with tears, or the hours of self-doubt you had to fight through. They won't mention how you had to walk away from comfort just to stay aligned with purpose. The same people who ignored your discipline will eventually need its fruit. But in the meantime, be okay with being too much for people who are too little in their vision. Don't shrink to make others comfortable. Don't soften your fire so others don't feel the heat of conviction. The truth is, people aren't bothered by your excellence. They're bothered by their own avoidance. Your focus reminds them of the time they wasted. Your discipline reveals what they chose to neglect. And so they'll criticize, not because you're wrong, but because you're a reflection of what they could be if they stopped compromising. But one day, your name will be in rooms you never entered. Because excellence always echoes louder than excuses. Keep showing up. Keep going hard. Your fruit will speak. In a world where trends change faster than seasons, your obedience is rare. Your consistency is a quiet rebellion. Your focus is a threat to the culture of compromise. And whether they admit it or not, your life is becoming proof that staying committed still matters. They may not clap, they may not repost, they may not invite you to the table, but heaven sees it. God honors the disciplined. The word says, "He who is faithful in little will be ruler over much." You don't have to rush the process, just be faithful to the plan. And yes, people will misunderstand your silence. They'll misinterpret your standards. They'll assume you think you're better. But you don't need to explain purpose to people who haven't even discovered theirs. Stop trying to convince those who are committed to confusion. Your path won't look like theirs. It wasn't meant to. You weren't called to blend in. You were called to stand apart, to walk with integrity, to move with purpose, to live with divine rhythm. So don't get weary when you feel unseen. Don't grow discouraged when support is low. God often hides his greatest warriors in seasons of obscurity, not to punish them, but to prepare them. And when it's your time, no man can deny it. One of the hardest things about discipline is how lonely it can feel. While others gather in comfort, you're grinding in the shadows. While others chase attention, you're chasing alignment. And that separation can sting, especially when it comes from those you thought would support you. But excellence requires solitude. Growth demands space. God often calls his greatest leaders away from the noise, not because they don't belong, but because they're becoming too valuable to be distracted. If you're in a season where it feels like no one understands your grind, good. That means you're on the right track. Most people won't recognize the cost until the crown appears. But the silence you endure now is building a strength you'll soon need in the spotlight. Keep showing up when no one claps. Keep training like it matters, because it does. Your quiet season is not a curse, it's a cocoon. And when it's over, you won't be the same. You'll be sharper, wiser, stronger, unshakable. There's a moment on every journey where the temptation to turn back screams the loudest. The criticism becomes heavy. The isolation gets real. The reward feels far. But here's what you need to know. Going back won't make you feel better. It'll make you feel empty. You've come too far. You've paid too high a price. You've cried too many tears to retreat now. And besides, what would you go back to? Shallow approval? Empty validation? Fleeting comfort? Your soul knows the cost of compromise. Your spirit has tasted the clarity that only discipline brings. And no matter how loud the noise gets, you know deep down, it's not worth it. So choose again. Choose the higher path. Choose the narrow gate. Choose the pain of growth over the comfort of regret. And when you're tired, remind yourself, this is the cost of becoming uncommon. You're not doing it for applause. You're doing it for legacy, for purpose, for alignment. And that's something most won't understand until they see what your discipline built. Sometimes the loudest sermon isn't shouted, it's lived. When you walk with integrity, when you stay disciplined even when no one is clapping, your life becomes a message. People may never say it, but your consistency convicts their compromise. You don't need to argue with critics. You don't have to defend your calling. Your discipline will speak for itself. It already does. The way you wake up early, the way you keep showing up, the way you say no to distractions, that's preaching. They're watching you, even if they pretend not to. And while they may not applaud your effort, they're taking notes. Your obedience reminds them of the obedience they abandoned. Your focus reminds them of the potential they wasted. And that kind of silent preaching stings. But don't lower your standard to make them feel comfortable. Don't dull your light because it exposes their shadows. Keep walking, keep doing the unseen work, because while they gossip, you're growing. While they watch, you're becoming. And eventually, even your silence will demand respect. Let your life be the sermon. Let your consistency be the message. You weren't called to explain, you were called to exemplify. And trust this, those who mocked you in secret will one day admire you in public. Ever notice how people try to make you feel bad for being focused? Like ambition is a flaw, like planning for your future is arrogance. But let's be clear, you're not too focused, they're just too distracted. We live in a culture where distraction is normal and laziness is accepted. So when someone shows up with clarity, commitment, and intention, it makes others uncomfortable. Your presence becomes a threat to their complacency, so they'll project. They'll say you're too serious. They'll call you intense. That's fine. Let them talk. Because while they're laughing, you're building. While they're scrolling, you're sharpening. While they waste time, you're mastering yours. Your discipline doesn't need to be explained. It's evidence that you've seen a vision greater than your current reality. You're not focused to impress them. You're focused because you know what's at stake. You're not grinding to prove a point. You're grinding because purpose requires preparation. Don't water yourself down for people who fear depth. Stay locked in. Stay elevated. Eventually, they'll realize the difference between noise and substance. And when they do, you'll already be too far ahead to catch. As you rise, don't expect everyone to understand your journey. Some people were only meant to know the old you. The version that tolerated nonsense, over-explained yourself, and lived for approval. But discipline demands evolution, and with evolution comes separation. You don't think the same, you don't speak the same, you don't move the same, and that shift will make others uncomfortable. They'll say you're acting different, and they're right. You're moving in alignment now. You're making decisions based on vision, not validation. You've stopped performing for acceptance. You've started honoring your future more than your fears. Not everyone can handle that. Some relationships will fade. Some connections will dissolve. That's okay. Growth always costs something. But never let the fear of being misunderstood keep you from maturing. You weren't created to live in a box. You weren't designed to stay small. So when elevation requires isolation, accept it. God doesn't prune what He doesn't plan to promote. And the distance you feel now is the very space needed for your breakthrough to unfold. Discipline isn't just a tool, it's divine protection. It keeps you from sabotaging what you prayed for. It anchors you when the enemy sends distractions disguised as opportunities. It keeps you sharp when comfort tries to make you soft. When God gives you a vision, He also gives you the responsibility to steward it. That's where discipline comes in. It's the gatekeeper of your calling. Without it, you're vulnerable to anything loud, urgent, or attractive. The enemy doesn't always destroy with failure. Sometimes he destroys with attention, with busyness, with fake affirmation. That's why God uses discipline to protect you from the very things that look like blessings but lead to bondage. Or think of Joseph. Before the palace came the prison. Before honor came obedience. And what kept him ready through it all? Discipline, faithfulness, focus. Don't resent the boundaries. They're not punishment, they're preparation. Every no you say to distraction is a yes to destiny. Every time you choose purpose over pleasure, you build strength the enemy can't shake. So next time discipline feels heavy, remember it's the weight that builds warriors. And your calling is too great to walk through life undisciplined. There comes a moment where the results of your discipline begin to speak louder than any doubt, mockery, or rejection you once received. When the fruit begins to show, you don't have to prove anything anymore. Your life becomes undeniable. People who once questioned your choices now question their own. The same voices that ridiculed you now whisper your name in admiration. Because fruit can't be faked. It doesn't lie. It shows up when the roots are deep and the process is respected. You don't have to chase applause when excellence is your habit. You don't have to defend your path when the results show the wisdom of your walk. The same ones who thought you were wasting time will realize you were investing it. This is what happens when discipline becomes your standard. Your consistency produces a harvest that no opinion can cancel. And the beauty of it all? You didn't clap back. You didn't fight to be seen. You simply stayed faithful. And now your fruit is doing all the talking. Let them watch. Let them wonder. Because when the blessing falls, even the blind will see that obedience always pays off. At the end of the day, discipline isn't just about results, it's about identity. It's not just about what you do, it's about who you're becoming in the process. You're not just building habits, you're building character. You're not just grinding, you're growing. And the beauty of discipline is that it's shaping you into someone who can carry the weight of your calling without breaking. This is why it hurts, why it costs, why it stretches you. Because it's not about temporary wins, it's about eternal impact. God isn't just answering prayers, He's preparing vessels. And you, my friend, are being refined in the fire of discipline. One day, when it all makes sense, you'll thank God for the lonely nights, for the sacrifices, for the standards that felt too high. Because that process made you unshakable. It rooted you in something deeper than applause. It built you for purpose. So walk boldly. Let your discipline be your signature. Let your life declare, I didn't quit when it got hard. I didn't bend to pressure. I chose the narrow path. And now I carry the oil that only obedience can produce. Because they were never against you, they were convicted. And your discipline? It was always divine,